What's up, Calgary? How you doing? Happy New Year and welcome to season 4 of your favorite show, My City Speaks to Me. I'm still your host, Lanre Ajayi. Good to be back with you folks. I hope you're all doing well. Enjoy the Christmas and the beginning of the new year. During the last few months of the year 2021, history was made in this city as Calgarians headed to the polls to elect new political officials to run in office. There was a battle of the fittest between 27 political candidates vying for office of the next mayor to occupy this building. Alas, Calgary spoke, and a pinnacle moment in our city history was formed. For the very first time, Calgarians elected our first female mayor, Mayor Jyoti Gondek, a strong woman with a drive to see the city soar to new heights. While the fight continues for more gender equality, this is another pivotal moment in history to be celebrated for women everywhere around the world. And it's an honor for me to be hosting our worship's exclusive 100 Days in Office, only on My City Speaks to Me, the Calgary edition. Like I do it on this show, don't move a muscle, stretch. We'll be right back. Welcome back to My City Speaks to Me. Still on the exclusive 100 Days in Office of Mayor Jyoti Gondek. In a little while, I'll be in this space talking to Mayor Jyoti Gondek on our little achievements, challenges, and lessons within the last few 100 days in our office. So let's go inside and continue with this interview. Welcome back to My City Speaks to Me, the Calgary edition. And it's an honor for me to have an amazing guest in the house. You know, Calgary is blessed, and I'm blessed to be part of this city. And our guest is a special person, and it's no other person than the first female mayor in the history of Calgary. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mayor Jyoti Gondek.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. Now, the last time I saw you face to face before the Chinook Blast announcement on Tuesday was while you are in the middle of running for the office in which you occupy now. And that I was privileged to sit down with you in our little studio where you passionately share your dreams and aspiration to run for this office. And Calgarians are thrilled to see a woman mayor in office, and would like to know, how things have been, the challenges, the lessons, hopefully maybe someone out there can learn a thing or two, having a female mayor in the office. And the first question I have for you is, how does it feel to be the first female mayor in Calgary?
It's an absolute privilege. It is an honor to hold this office, whether you are male or female. However you identify, it is an absolute honor to hold an office like this. I am privileged to do this work every day, and I'm humbled by the faith that Calgarians put in me when they elected me into this position, and I come to work every day happy to be doing this. And it's through having connected with people like you during the campaign that I was able to get my message out about my vision for this city. And now it's a matter of executing that vision together with my colleagues Very happy to see that we have a lot of diverse voices on council, and I think there's great things that we can do into the future.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that question. Now that you're the mayor, I would like to pick up from where our conversation ended last year.
Okay.
Now, I asked you before the election that, what would you hope to have accomplished in office after your term? Now, you just begin your term in office, and since you've taken this office, what are some little milestones, accomplishment here and there? Because I remember I said that we should give our audience a picture of the future. So, can you give us some bit of little milestones, accomplishment within this short period of, and by the way, for our audience, this is an exclusive 100 days in office of our mayor. So, what is some of those little achievements here and there, that you can say, yeah, this is looking bright?
I remember when I spoke with you, one of the things I said is that planning for an amazing city into the future is a long game. Yes. And anyone that thinks that we are going to change the world overnight or within 4 years, you have to be patient. This is a longer than 4-year vision that we're trying to deliver on. But in terms of laying the foundation and getting things started, I have to tell you, I'm very proud to be working with this council. And one of the hopes that I had was that we would create more partnerships and collaboration, not only within council, but between council and many of our external stakeholders. So there's been many things that have happened. It was a pleasure to go down to Houston with Calgary Economic Development to attend the World Petroleum Congress. It was incredible how our city was recognized for our forward thinking in terms of clean technology and sustainability and energy transformation. So we have delivered a message of being a forward thinking place because we declared a climate emergency. And in doing so, we now have capital investment looking at our city to see whether they can bring their money here for successful enterprises. We have seen the clean tech sector take off. We have been recognized as one of the top 5 places in North America as an emerging market for clean tech. And within that clean tech market, the successes include 51% of founders being first-time founders. They've never done this before. 28% of them were born outside Canada. 23% are women. So when we diversify our economy, you start to see diversification in leadership positions. Those are some of the things that have happened on the economic front. I can tell you on the social front, yesterday I attended an announcement where HomeSpace is delivering 82 units of affordable housing, combined with an emergency family shelter and all of the supports that any family would need to transition out of a period of being unhoused to having a dignified place to live. These are some of the things that are happening in our downtown because we invested money in our own revitalization. And the money is now coming from other orders of government to support our vision and our plan. So these are some of the quick things that have happened in the first 100 days. I can also tell you that the conversations at council have been very rewarding. We had one debate where we were talking about funding better security in our parks. And Councillor Penner said, we need to stop just talking about security. We need to talk about safety of the people that are in positions of vulnerability that are in those parks. How will we care for them? That was a game changer. We're now talking about everybody and how they're safer and how we have security for all. We invested money into our climate declaration. We invested money into creating an Indigenous gathering place. These are bold moves that demonstrated we're not just talking, we're actually putting it in the budget.
That is amazing, and I love that because this is what we're talking about, that the future is bright.
Yes.
Within just 100 days, we have so much to look, up to, and thank you very much for, putting your hands on the deck and get the work moving. Now, while you were talking, you mentioned something about, downtown, and that leads me to the next question on the vacancy challenge in downtown. That how do you plan to tackle the Calgary downtown vacancy? Are there incentives for converting to residential spaces?
You know what, that's an excellent question. One of the things we did as a council just before our term ended last time, we received a report and recommendations from a variety of stakeholders who had worked together, and they brought us a downtown revitalization strategy, which included an incentive program. And so when we began that work, we were providing about $50 million for third parties that were interested in converting some of those old office spaces that are vacant into residential units. And one of those was that home space example I just talked about. But we have seen oversubscription of that fund. There was more people interested than dollars available. So as a new council, we invested more money. So now we have $100 million that has been made available for an incentive program to convert from office to residential. Private sector is taking it up, the not-for-profit sector is taking it up. It's working.
That is lovely. I love the word, it's working.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Thank you very much for that answer. Now, this next question is about Calgarians, and the current economic status. What are some ways you think will help Calgarians progress and recover from our current economic status?
It's always a concern when we continue to see our unemployment numbers being higher than provincial and national averages. It's been very persistent that we've been in this downturn, and it's incredibly difficult for families to keep their homes and keep food on the table. But I can tell you that with reskilling programs that are available for a lot of professionals who are in traditional industries and traditional professions, we're offering the opportunity for them to take up positions in the new economy. And with announcements like Neo Financial just last week, saying that they're interested in taking up space not only in the Edison building, but also in the historic Hudson's Bay building, you can see that we are actually creating spaces for a new era of work. So I think together with the companies that are taking an interest in our city and the programs that are being offered by post-secondaries and economic development, we can get some of those good folks back to work into positions that will carry them into the future.
That's the good news for Calgarians. That is wonderful. Now, this is another question that some of my colleagues and teams, when they heard that I'm talking to the mayor, they want to get an answer. It has to do with the arena deal. And the question is, how are you going to approach the Flames Arena deal now that the owners balked at additional costs for roadway, sidewalk, infrastructure, and climate mitigation the city added to the project since July?
So here's the thing that I need to clarify. There's something called a development permit that needs to be approved before anything gets constructed. And that development permit takes time to put together. So in December of 2020, well over a year ago, that process of creating a development permit started between all stakeholders. So the City of Calgary, as a regulatory body, was working with Calgary Sports and Entertainment Corporation since that time. And it was well known, the pieces that would be included. If you talk to anybody in the land development industry, they'll tell you if you have to dig up a street or a sidewalk as part of your development project, it is on you to replace those things. So I think the misunderstanding has been that we added additional costs at the 11th hour. Those were well known in the development permit process. I think people also forget that council was not even council yet on October 15th, when there was discussions about what would be included as a cost in the development permit process. So this council couldn't have added anything, we simply weren't there. During that development permit approval, as a matter of fact, we spent about 6 hours discussing that item in the middle of November, and it was clear that there was conditions attached to that development permit that accomplished all of the goals that some members of commission were saying were missing. So our administration, together with Calgary Sports and Entertainment Corporation, put together a very strong development permit. I think what's honestly happened here is that the world changed with the pandemic and the cost of materials went up. Supply chain disruptions made costs go up. And so as part of the deal that was in place, parties were able to walk away if it seemed that they couldn't get to construction, and that's what happened. I would very much prefer for Calgarians to understand that there is no blame to be laid here, other than an economic environment we could not have predicted.
That's amazing. And is there any future hope that the plan can move forward?
Absolutely, and this is another really good indicator of a strong council that wishes to work together. We had deliberation and debate about the future of the event center, and in a unanimous decision of council, 15 members agreeing that we would pursue the goal of creating an entertainment district that includes an event center, and that we would go forward with a third party to talk to Calgary Sports and Entertainment Corporation and gauge their interest in moving ahead with us, as well as any other interested partners. So it is wide open to make this project happen, and I'm hopeful that it'll be something that's successful for everyone involved.
Thank you very much for that answer.
You're welcome.
Now, this question has to do with big corporations, in Calgary. I know you've briefly made some mentioning, but I want a bit of clarification more. That what are your plans, or what plans do you have to attract major corporations to Calgary?
That's a really good question. And I will talk about a few different things. One is talent. Our city has a lot of very well-educated people here, and it is something that corporations are taking note of. Earlier this week, EY announced that they were opening a financial hub in our city with 200 new positions. And their reason for doing so in our city was that we have a very well-educated workforce, we are in a beautiful setting, and it is affordable to live in Calgary. Those are strong indicators of success for a city like ours. The other thing that we've recognized is that once you get critical mass of that type of workforce that people are seeking, and right now people are seeking experts in technology and innovation, that critical mass leads to larger companies coming here. So Amazon, when they announced their latest tranche of jobs that would be coming to Calgary, they said, we now have enough people that used to be startups that they've started to scale up, and companies like theirs are interested in being located here. So it took a little bit of time for our startups to scale up, but now people are taking interest in us.
That is amazing. Why you mentioned startups, Calgary wants to be an IT hub.
Yeah.
Would you consider investing in fiber so we have fast and reliable connections and no more dependencies on Vancouver?
You know what's interesting? I can tell you that the city of Calgary has looked at fiber for a very long time. There's a network that exists in the core. Shaw, TELUS, all of the various providers are very, very interested in making sure that we have strong access to such technology here in our city. But the thing has also been around making it affordable and accessible for all Calgarians. So those are conversations we continue to have. I can tell you with some service providers that I have met with and spoken with, they're absolutely interested in creating packages for people who are in situations of lower income, and particularly with Indigenous partners. They want to make sure that everyone's got affordable, equal access.
Thank you very much for that answer. Now, this question has to do with the issue of racism, anti-racism, prejudice, and here and there. And we know that even though we want to be inclusive, want to be diverse, there are still some elements, challenges here and there. People who are not being they just don't like their neighbors. So the question is, how would you like to address and challenge racial injustices, unfair practices, and double standards in Calgary?
Oh, there's so many facets to that question, and it's incredibly frustrating that we are still in a world where racism exists. I had hoped that by now we would be past this, but it is persistent because it's so deeply embedded in our systems. And it's that conversation around systemic racism that has been so incredibly uncomfortable for so many people, but I think they're starting to see it now. When your systems perpetuate inequity, they make it easier for racism to stay or take hold. And I think it's this dismantling of systems that will take such a long time that has frustrated people. So they've started down this path of anti-racism, and they've realized how big and heavy the work is, and they've given up. Well, we can't. We can't give up. Just because it's hard work doesn't mean it's not meaningful. Yep. So I think we have started to understand that we have to strike partnerships, and we have to be collaborative and be there for each other. In this month, we look at the commemoration of Holocaust Remembrance Day. We also look at the attack on the Quebec mosque. These are things we cannot forget in our history because they were acts of violence perpetrated because people hated other people. We have to remember these things so we don't perpetuate that kind of violence into the future. And from a very technical point of view, I think it's going to be a significant undertaking that has to be something we do. We have to change hate crimes legislation. Right now, the threshold to prove that something is a hate crime is so high, people are getting away with hate because they won't get prosecuted. So we need to ramp up our criminal justice system to make sure that we are prosecuting people who are perpetrating this kind of hate.
Now, there's an answer to this question. We see people, being racist to each other, maybe on the streets or in some events and places, but in offices, we have issue of racism in offices. What word of advice will you give to those employers of labor or individuals who are in the upper echelons of power in their places of work, who by virtue of their positioning, they kind of allow such injustices or racism act to perpetuate, and without saying anything, I can begin to give you examples of people looking down on someone else because of their color of their skin or because the way they sound.
Yeah.
What word of advice you have for those people in power and in place of authority?
I think people in positions of power and authority need to understand their role in changing the system. And I think they need to understand their own unconscious biases. We all have them. Every single one of us has unconscious or conscious biases, and we need to pack those away when we are practicing decision making. There are experts that can help corporations in identifying unconscious bias in their people and their systems, and I would encourage every employer to ensure that they are accessing those resources. I can tell you that at the City of Calgary, we have hired some individuals who are helping us be better in our processes. And I will say to recruiters and human resource offices, think about the processes that you're using and think about whether you're actually casting the net wide enough to attract the type of people who are generally not able to apply for positions because they don't know they exist. So make your networks broader and talk to people who are different than you. Talk to people like you, talk to people like me. We will tell you who our networks are because they're not the traditional networks. And then ask people to come and interview, learn about them. And I'll say the same thing for students too. Our students are saying we are graduating from programs that are underrepresented and under-recognized by people who are hiring. So come and talk to us, learn what we care about, learn about our talents, and then make your hiring decisions. Don't make them based on a name.
Yep.
Don't make them based on the accent that the person brings. Make your decisions based on the talent and the qualifications that a person can bring.
Thank you very much for that. That was brilliant. That's a brilliant answer. Now, this question goes to women generally.
Women are generally awesome.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your answer.
I love my mom. I love my wife, my daughter. And as a feminist, in what ways would you like to help women in Calgary?
Excellent question. I can tell you I'm learning everything I can about the barriers that women are facing in this city. There is a group called the 51. They are a financial feminist organization, and they do a lot of research. They gather research that's been done by others, and they put it forward for our consideration. And I can tell you that they are reporting that women-led enterprises are outperforming their male counterparts by 60%.
Wow.
And it's not because the men are not as good at the role. The point is that in entrepreneurship, the ideas that are coming from women are different, and they're being embraced in a different way. That those women are only able to access 3%, only 3% of the capital that's available for those kind of enterprises to succeed. So we have to be much better and much more intentional about investing in women. Some of the other struggles that women have when it comes to full labor force participation, childcare. So let's make sure we are offering childcare spaces and opportunities in an affordable and accessible manner. I was very happy to see the federal and provincial governments finally come to an agreement on childcare solutions in our province that will greatly impact our city.
That is amazing. So I have one more question before the next segment, which I'm going to make known to our audience for the very first time. Now the question is, if you could, do you think you would run for office of the mayor again, or would you like to pursue another job titled politics?
Oh my goodness, it's such an interesting question. When I ran for the very first time in 2017 to be the Ward 3 councillor, I knew I had a 4-year mandate, and I wanted to deliver as much public service as I could in those 4 years. And when it came to about the end of the 3rd year and I was considering what do I want to do into the future, I thought very long and hard about whether I wanted to stay in public service, and I decided I did. And so I ran for mayor. I have a 4-year mandate to deliver service and results to Calgarians. That's why they elected me. And I want to be incredibly focused on the things that need to get done in these 4 years. I will probably be in a place in 3 years to determine whether or not this is something that I should carry on with, because there's a time and place for everyone. And it's incredibly important to know whether you are the right leader at that particular time. So I have no promises to make on that front. I will wait and see.
and we'll wait to see, and we'll be here to bring to Calgarians, you know, if Mayor Jyoti is going to come back or do something else. Thank you very much for your time today. To our audience, there's a new segment we're bringing into this show to create an aura of like, to make people connect more to our audiences. Now, people in power and politics, or the police, or the army, or the military, you know, in government, people look at them as, okay, they are out there, you know, they want to feel them. They want to see the human part of you when you're not in office, when you're not, you know, deliberating in the council. And this segment is called Do the Dance with Larry Ajayi on My City Speaks to Me. And it's an honor for me to have you as the first guest on this season 4, episode 1 of My City Speaks to Me, the Calgary edition. And I would like you to dance to a music I'm going to play. And, you know, I want our Calgarians, our audiences to connect with the mayor to see, oh, our mayor's got some moves. And then, well, this is going to set you on a groove for the end of the day as you work.
This is fantastic.
I've got my amiable assistant here that is going to keep the music, and then you can wear your mask.
Okay, perfect.
Now, this music is the new trailer intro for My City Speaks to Me, and it's just 1 minute, you know, music, and then let's get up and dance.
Oh my goodness. You're dancing with me. This is so good. Oh, you're swinging your coat around. I feel like I should do that too. Do you want to do a little pangra with this too? Yeah? This is how we dance, right? We do the pangra.
Oh, that's, yeah.
You could do this. See?
Thank you very much for coming on today's show. It's an honor to have you on this show. And to our guest, thank you very much for hanging out with me on today's episode of My City Speaks to Me. As always, I encourage you, visit my page, leave a comment, give thumbs up, and then share the video. And until I come again your way with more exciting episode on My City Speaks to Me from Calgary, Alberta, and Canada, I'm still your man, Larry Ajayi, signing off. Thank you, Jyoti, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.